the agenda for this is going to be kind of short for what I'm showing up here. The whole goal is I'm going to do a little bit of a personal wrap-up of some of the highlights, things I found the most interesting, going over more of a wide spectrum for what people in this room might be interested in, developer tools, Azure, AI, that kind of stuff. I got a couple quick demos. It's not going to be very heavy. And then the real meat and potatoes is going to be just afterwards, I want everyone to talk about what they found interesting, what they're more curious about, what they're really excited about, what they're actually already using. Normally in Build, I've noticed a couple years, they present a lot of things and then not everything comes out in the first 3 months. There have been a couple things that actually have started happening already. So kind of exciting. First, I have to shamelessly plug myself because I'm up on stage and no one can stop me, well, unless they call security. So I'm Victor Fry, for your friendly neighborhood developer. I'm very, very happy to be doing anything in GR. I actually got my start as a speaker last year, so this is starting to come to a full year capstone, and I'm just really excited about the community. Doesn't even say this up here, but if you ever want to get coffee, I'd love to. I love coffee. I like talking to people. I really want to make more of a connection in the Grand Rapids community. It's why I started speaking here. It's also why I try to attend here pretty much every month that we've been here since the beginning of 2025. Some fun facts. I own and maintain MicrosoftGraveyard.com. If a Microsoft product you love to use or hate to use dies, feel free to submit an issue, a PR, or whatever. I also launched a blog. That's fun. But the main thing is I do a lot of building with Microsoft technologies, and that's kind of my specialty, so that's why I've been paying attention to Build. Company, work for Leading Edge. It's a firm out of Columbus, Ohio. Don't hate it just because it's Ohio, I know. But we do a lot of stuff for custom software development, including areas in Microsoft Stack, Azure, .NET, AI. All right, I want to talk about Build more today. So first, we're going to be looking at development tools. Like I said, I probably missed something that you're really excited about or curious about. This is just what I was able to capture and then what I have any knowledge of speaking about. But for code authorship, Microsoft really seems to be investing in these three as the platforms for writing new code. Visual Studio, .NET 10 is coming out later this year. As many of you all know, this is the LTS version, so more people are likely to be upgrading. Just support in Visual Studio for .NET 10 has arrived. And a little bit more interesting is they have this GitHub Copilot app modernization tool. So if you're building with .NET and you use the .NET upgrade tool that just kind of walks you through and automates some of that, well, this is more of an AI-driven version of that, where it can build a plan, kind of that agent mode development, where it offers, hey, this is what I'm going to do, how I'm going to upgrade, and executes and does that upgrade for you. I've seen this launch for .NET, and I'm fairly confident there's also one for Java that came out, also using the GitHub Copilot. You can double check me if I'm wrong. I swear I saw that somewhere. But and then another thing, Agents Toolkit. You're seeing all sorts of toolkit bundled in all the IDEs and available. This one is specifically for tying into the Microsoft 365 graph. Not something I do every day, so I don't know as much about that. Visual Studio Code. Who here uses Visual Studio as their daily IDE? Who here uses VS Code? Yeah, okay. It's always fun because everyone has very strong opinions about their IDE. So one thing VS Code does, if you've been using it, there's the website vscode.dev, and if you go to it, you actually get the IDE. It kind of cloud provided for you, and you can do some light development. It doesn't retain everything for you, but they launched this vscode.dev/Azure, which if you go to that specifically, there is a bunch of the Azure extensions pre-installed for you. Just makes it a little faster if you're working with Azure, if you do any kind of demo application or something like that. You can pull that in. And then more exciting is the Copilot chat. So this is not GitHub Copilot itself. I've seen some people make that mistake. But it is, when you're using VS Code, that chat interface for interacting with GitHub Copilot is now being moved into the upstream, so the main code base of VS Code. Therefore, it's open source. The more exciting thing is why. Microsoft hasn't really said a why, but if you look at some of the other IDEs out there, think Cursor, think Windsurf, these other ones that are really leveraging AI, this starts to move towards that kind of platform where you get a lot more AI natively built into VS Code. And maybe it means some new innovations that we might see. Obviously, it's also open source, so people can put up PRs and make contributions themselves. Could be signs of cool things to come. I don't know. I do not have any insider information. And then GitHub Copilot. This one hit the center stage a lot more, and they released, I might mess up the name, the GitHub Copilot agent, where you can assign in GitHub to Copilot, and it will automatically go out and do work for you, fully autonomous, but then coming back, submitting a PR, something you can review, something you can edit on top of, whatever you want there. When it was first announced, it was part of the GitHub Copilot Pro SKU. And I highlight that because it costs like $200 a month, and it's really expensive. Since then, they've started moving it down, and it is available on some of the lower priced tiers, but under the premium chats kind of costing. All that means is it's available if you have GitHub Copilot at certain levels, especially if you have it through Enterprise, and it's turned on and all that other stuff. It is out there. I have not had a chance to play with it because it's behind a couple barriers and slowly rolling out. It is something I really want to play with. These two were a little buried in the actual main stage announcements, and they're two of the ones I have demos for. So first, .NET Aspire, if you've actually seen the dashboard locally. If you launch it through Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code and have your GitHub account tied to it, it will provide a Copilot chat interface, just like in your IDE or in your browser. And it works. It has the context of your Aspire app. I really wish they would add it to the .NET CLI somehow. I'm sure they can do that, but dreams are for later. And then the other one they did not mention anywhere in the keynote, but they started revealing is this .NET Run File CS paradigm, where you no longer need to make a .NET project to start running .NET code. There's a lot of limitations to it, but I've already started using it for sample apps because you can fit your entire project on one screen really easy, instead of trying to say like, here's my code, and here's a giant blob of XML that's also providing all the dependencies so you can write this code. Kind of just inlines that. So I am going to show those. I'm going to break from the screen. So run and debug. We're going to see how good Brian's Wi-Fi really is. Not really, it's mostly local. And so this one, I am launching Aspire, and it's going to take a couple seconds till the dashboard comes up. And I'll just continue to plug. .NET Aspire is my favorite thing because anytime you're building a little app and don't have to worry about starting up X service and then Y service and then connecting them together, it just kind of handles all of that for you. Love it. Come on. So here we go. It's up in the corner, chat with GitHub Copilot. It's not that intrusive. You can turn it off if you really, really hate AI, but I think most of us in this room are curious about the future in that kind of way. And then here I can just say like, hey, what resources are running? Are any not running? And it's able to tie into it. so I can actually click on the resource. I mean, it's also over here, but I'm able to ask this. If you get a bunch of logs going, it's able to pull in your telemetry data and kind of help you troubleshoot if something's not working. It's a lot harder of a state to demo, but this is really cool. It's one of the areas where you're seeing like, hey, yep, the .NET team is also adding AI to everything. And then, oh, I want to shut you down. And then for the run file, hopefully you can read that. It's a little easier when you can. So this is an example, and if I pop out, you can see there's no csproj file, there's no folders, nothing. This is a very basic example, but looks like a script. And when I first saw this, the first YouTube comment was, it looks like Python, which, despite my story from earlier, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I'm kind of noticing a trend in .NET that they're really approaching approachability to get new people into the ecosystem and interested and making it easier. Every time you see this, they're going to say like, hey, this paradigm's more for students. I disagree. I think it's really great for sample applications. I've seen some feedback that library authors like this for, hey, providing a bunch of samples of how to run with their library. In this case, this is just a simple ASP.NET API, and you can see .NET run hello CS. Get a little server running, and I call it, like, it's actually responsive. So that's pulling in all of ASP.NET into one single file. This does not work multi-file yet. It can be converted to the more traditional way. I think they said there's some challenges with unit tests specifically, like a lot of the unit test frameworks can't do this, and some people, I don't know why they're trying to do that, but hey. And my input is we're probably all going to have to read code like this in the future, whether we love it or hate it. But they use the same, what do we call those? I can't remember. Directives, yeah. They just use these hashtag : directives, and then also you get your, for Linux, Mac OS people, you get your shebangs. So you can run this literally as a script without the .NET run on Linux, as long as you have this. Cool stuff. I think I'm excited about this for like scripts, utility scripts in your repo. You can just write it in .NET, and I think one of the cool things is like I could have this one, and I could just create a new file right here that's hello.net CS. So instead of, this one says hello world, hello, and like both of these are valid apps, valid projects behind the scenes. I've even looked into it. The obj folder, the bin folder, they're still there, but they're hiding in like temp locations so that it's even more abstracted. They're really going for like, you don't have to see anything. And I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I think this is one of the more interesting things happening for .NET. One thing I know is it isn't supported in Visual Studio yet. They've said that they predict the target users are people in VS Code. So, I mean, if you think about it, Visual Studio will create the project for you and manage all that. So it's kind of like, I hope they walk back and eventually add it so that people who start with Visual Studio can still start this way without having to see the XML. But yeah. I mean, I don't even use Visual Studio on a day-to-day basis. So. Let's see. There's an attach. So .NET run. Darn. It's still running. That's why. So attach. And then I have to hopefully find, here we go. Debugger. Now I don't know what I'd actually be attaching to. Step, because this is already the program file. You can. I don't know how well it works. Fun. I just learned that myself. Okay. A couple more. I'm actually going through this a little slower. Shiny SQL. I don't know SQL Server as in depth, and I'm always at companies that are upgrading very slowly. There's new logos. That's worth knowing. I do know.
I installed Manifest Azure Studio. I go to my taskbar, I can't.
Yeah, no.
Convert to blue, it's still the yellow.
Yeah, SSMS, it looks kind of like Visual Studio's logo, tilted up and then blue, yeah. And the SQL Server kind of looks like a database and an S at the same time, kind of. I like logo design, so. I do know from a more functional standpoint, 2025 is including stuff around like vector search, making that a lot easier to work with. There's I want to say new data type for JSON, and it mostly just interacts with when you're querying how you get that results back, and you can kind of iterate over that. More friendly for developers who are storing giant blobs of JSON in there instead of just a blob type. If anyone knows more about it? Okay, so we haven't hit the cloud stuff yet. I apologize. Windows stuff, WSL, also open source. This does not include WSL 1, but it does include all the WSL 2 stuff. A lot of excitement about that. I won't probably be contributing to it, but still cool. And then some new toys. Edit. This is actually my favorite thing from Build, mostly because I use NeoVim a lot. And if you've ever seen the memes of how do you exit Vim, well, it is a real thing. They're kind of just building a light version of that. It's modeless, meaning you don't have to memorize all the commands for how do you switch around modes. And they're bundling it in Windows, but it is also cross-platform. There's already Linux executables for it. You can run it anywhere. So kind of exciting. Really tiny little side project that was in the footnotes of their book of news. And then Command Pal, it's just a new PowerToys run. It reminds me of Spotlight if you've ever used a Mac. And yeah, okay. So quick versions of these. So edit, literally called edit. And one of the nice things is like, it's not like Vim in the sense that you can actually interact with it almost like it's a UI. It's a text editor. You can quit, but you can also go the power user route and just memorize hotkeys. Cool. And then, it's really nifty. And then this is Command Pal, Command Palette, but constantly see CMD PAL, and some cool stuff. Can just memorize equals for math, memorize $sign, you get settings. Cool stuff. This one's in PowerToys though. I always have a problem with PowerToys because you have to install it yourself and it's not just baked in, but that's a personal thing. Maybe. Okay. And then the AI stuff. So I'm going to really rely on people here to tell me a lot more about some of this because there's so much AI stuff and I couldn't get it all. But AI in the cloud, Azure AI Foundry, agent service. So now they have an agent service built into AI Foundry. They're really centering around that AI Foundry brand and portal for everything AI going forward. If you remember, it used to be called AI Studio, and I think there's a name before that. This seems to be the brand they actually like. I have not played with the agent service, but then overall, they went all in on A2A and MCP. VS Code, you can start installing MCP servers. Just Azure has its own MCP server. There's a Microsoft Learn MCP server. So if you want to integrate the Microsoft documentation, you can pull that in. MCP servers everywhere. Another one, agentic retrieval engine in Azure AI Search. So this just seems to be kind of using that existing Azure AI Search. They're adding more functionality around agents and the way they retrieve data. It's one of them that I didn't see initially. And then again, Entra Agent ID. So you're starting to see that agents are getting their own unique identifiers in Entra ID, becoming first-class citizens, easier to manage. Sure, someone who's more in the identity space might be able to talk about this. And you get an audit trail with it. Once you have an identity attached to them, you can see what it did, what it accessed. From the Entra folks, they're very excited about this. Okay, and then one more, AI locally. Azure AI Foundry local is now a thing. So you can actually run and manage your models on device, Windows 11 and macOS. But it's not the same thing as Windows AI Foundry, which is the evolution of the Copilot runtime, and they do integrate with each other. It is a little confusing because everything's AI Foundry, but right now there's like a half a dozen ways to run your models locally, and none of them are supported across the board. I'm going to guess you're going to see at least one of these two names in some kind of integration with Aspire, so you can run them locally, some kind of integration with other languages, other ways to pull them in. Right now, I can tell you this laptop, I pulled down 5.4, which is supposed to be really small, and it kind of croaked. So, okay. So before just more discussion, these are the themes I've been noticing from Build, just kind of making that inference myself. More approachable.net, that's one of them I mentioned. It just seems like one of the goals in .NET is how do we get more people to start using it. ASP.NET's really mature. The new things around there aren't groundbreaking these days, but still exciting. They're going for a little bit more of an AI model factory. So if you notice like keynotes like Google I/O, they talked a lot about Google's newest model. Microsoft still doesn't have one, and they're kind of leaning more and more towards that, hey, we have all the models approach. Committed to open source, kind of exciting, especially if you remember the days that they hated anything open source. Windows developer experience continues to get better. I'm a little bit of a champion for that because a lot of people are like, hey, I love my Mac, and I still actually like working on Windows, and I know there's a developer experience team, or there at least was. And they just keep launching a bunch of new tools. Edit and that command pal are two of them from here, but stuff like Winget, WSL also came from that area, and it's just really exciting seeing that. And then if you're using any Microsoft product, we've already covered it, there's probably AI in it now somewhere. And that's all I have.